Hi, and welcome to Rent Prep for Landlords. I'm Andrew Schultz, Community Manager here at Rent Prep. I'm also a licensed real estate broker in the state of New York with over 15 years of experience in the property management and rental property industries. On today's episode, what stinks in here? We're going to be talking all about getting tough smells out of your home. We're also going to be talking about ozone generators and how they can help you with that process. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get to it. Let's start things off by talking about cleaning. We typically expect to get an apartment back in broom clean condition when a tenant turns it over to us at move out. If we get it back in broom clean condition, we don't charge against their security deposit for any additional cleaning. So what is broom clean? I think that this is going to vary a little bit from person to person. Obviously, one person's idea of broom clean can be vastly different than what another person's idea of broom clean is. And that goes for broom clean as well as hotel clean, any other level of cleaning. Broom clean to us means that the home is relatively clean, free of debris, free of any stains and things of that nature. Broom clean for us also means that the appliances have been cleaned inside and outside, and oftentimes we'll find that tenants will lose some of their deposit due to not cleaning appliances or leaving items behind that we have to dispose of. Those are probably the two most common charges that we see when it comes to security deposit dispositions is cleaning and disposal of items. Now, we try to deliver an apartment in hotel clean condition. This is obviously a step above broom clean, and it's going to take some additional work to go from broom clean to hotel clean. But the reason that we try to get as close to hotel clean as possible is that it eliminates the argument that the unit was not clean when the tenant moved in, when the tenant goes to move out. So essentially, when we go to do a move-in, we get a very detailed photo set of the entire apartment, inside and outside of cabinets, inside and outside of appliances, and things of that nature. When a tenant comes back to us at the end of their tenancy when they move out and are trying to argue against a security deposit disposition letter that would have a charge for a cleaning charge or something of that nature, having that move-in photo set and being able to compare it to the move-out photo set usually stops that argument dead in its tracks. The tenant realizes that no, they did not actually clean the apartment or leave it anywhere near the condition it was at when they moved in, or even broom clean in a lot of instances. And having that documentation is what allows us to sort of avoid some of those arguments with tenants that think that they left the place in pristine condition. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about cleaning because we all understand how cleaning works. But I do want to point out a couple of the more commonly missed items that will help you get rid of the really, really tough smells that you may be having trouble getting rid of. Starting off our list, we're going to talk about probably the most obvious thing to point out, which would be making sure that you've eliminated the potential source of the smell. If you don't eliminate the source of the smell, you're never going to eliminate the smell. So that's obviously going to be step one. Be sure to double check inside and under all of your appliances. Double check cabinets, double check closets. As I mentioned earlier, oftentimes things will get left behind accidentally, sometimes on purpose. And if that item stinks, then you're never going to get rid of the smell until you get rid of the source. Another thing is obviously to empty all of the garbages and remove any debris from the property, things of that nature. That's going to help you get rid of a lot of the source of your smell right off the bat. Another less common source of odor is moisture. If you have any moisture finding its way into the home, that can create odors as well. And it also gives an opportunity for mold growth, mildew growth, things of that nature, which we would obviously want to try to avoid whenever possible. So if you can see any signs of moisture infiltrating into the home, make sure that you deal with those concerns as soon as possible. That's going to help you to eliminate a lot of the underlying odors once that moisture is out of the space. It's also worth mentioning that taking humidity out of a room can help eliminate odors as well. Some odors are particularly bad when they're damp. And the one thing that came to mind immediately when I was writing this episode up was skunk smell. I had a dog that was sprayed by a skunk, and he got into the house and, of course, rubbed all over the cabinets and rolled around on the carpets. We went crazy cleaning the house and scrubbing and everything. And still, for about 6 months, every time it would get humid outside or there would be a rainstorm, we would still smell that lingering skunk odor. It's one of those smells that really seems to be enhanced by dampness, by moisture, and honestly, it's one of the worst smells out there as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're dealing with it in your home. Now, earlier in the episode, I had mentioned carpets, and I wanted to bring those up in a little bit more depth. Carpets and upholstery both should be cleaned between all tenancies. The problem with soft goods such as carpets and upholstery is that it can really hold a smell for an extended period of time. And the best example I can give of this is think about a shirt that you threw in the hamper after being by a campfire or after cooking something in oil. When you pull that shirt out and go to wash it, you're still able to smell the campfire or you're still able to smell the cooking oil. The same concept applies here. Soft goods retain odor, and cleaning them is the best way to resolve it. Sometimes carpets are just too badly damaged to leave in place. Typically, the most common stains we see on carpets are from pets or from shoes. Shoe dirt typically doesn't get past the carpet fibers and into the pad, and a lot of time those carpets can be saved even if they look a little bit dirtier than you would expect, as long as it's not really penetrated all the way down and into the pad. Pet stains can obviously be a little bit more tricky. If the staining has saturated through the carpet and down into the pad, you're not going to be able to clean that up with just a typical carpet cleaner in most instances. Depending on the level of damage, you may actually need to pull and replace the carpet and the pad. And in really bad instances, there may even be damage to the subfloor underneath. If that's the case, I would recommend using some sort of an enzyme cleaner to try to pull as much of the smell and as much of the staining out as possible. In some instances, you may be better off just cutting that section of floor out altogether and replacing it. We have had a few instances like that from pet damage. It's crazy how much damage a pet can do in a short period of time if they're left unattended or if their needs are not being met. Deep cleaning may be required as well to get tough smells out. That's just kind of the fact of life when it comes to doing an apartment turnover. When you're doing your deep cleaning, don't forget to pull out your appliances and clean underneath and behind them. I know we've mentioned that a couple times in this video. These areas are often overlooked, and as a result, they often contain a lot of nastiness that needs to be cleaned up. Grab a bottle of degreaser. You're definitely going to want it when you're doing your stoves, and oftentimes it makes it a lot easier to get the stuff up that might be stuck to the floor as well. So I would definitely recommend making sure that you go through and detail clean your appliances as well as underneath and behind, because there's a lot of stuff that gets caught there that doesn't necessarily get picked up and cleaned all the time, which can lead to odors. We also mentioned cabinets earlier as well. Don't forget to clean your cabinets inside and out. Degreaser can come in very, very handy here as well, especially when you're talking about the cabinets surrounding the stove, or maybe you have a cabinet above the stove, something of that nature. Degreaser can go a long way in making those cabinets look nice again. Cabinets can hold a smell for an extended period of time as well. Don't forget that wood is a porous material, and if you have a cabinet that has a bunch of spices in it, eventually those spices are going to start to permeate into the wood. Now, the best method I found for pulling the smell back out is a box of baking soda in the cabinet. It can help reduce that odor over the course of time, but this is not going to be a situation where you pull all of that out overnight. A lot of times the cabinets take a little bit longer to pull the smell back out of, simply because it's so literally ingrained in the wood. Another common source for tough smells that keep coming back is the furnace and the ductwork. So if you have an odor that's been trapped in a house for a while, that odor has been running through the furnace and has been running through the ductwork, and that's likely going to be one of the sources of your ongoing odor problem. Start by changing the furnace filter and seeing where that gets you. People often forget to change furnace filters on a regular basis. We always try to do them as part of our turnovers, and a lot of times we'll see that the furnace filters haven't been changed in quite a while. So changing the furnace filter does help to eliminate a lot of odor, just because you're no longer pushing your clean air, if you will, through a dirty filter, which has a bunch of contaminants and nastiness built into it. You may also have a situation where the ducts need to be cleaned as well. So if you change out the filter and you're seeing that you are still having the smell and you're able to tell that it's coming from the air ducts itself, you may actually have to go the extra length of having the ducts cleaned all the way from the furnace to each register to make sure that everything is cleaned out. And if you're going to go that far, you might as well also have the furnace cleaned as well, just to make sure that if there's any nastiness that was in the furnace, that's been cleared out as well. This is a very, very common situation to encounter in any sort of a home where someone has lived in it and been a smoker for a long period of time. Chances are you're probably going to have to go through and do a really, really in-depth cleaning, especially of the HVAC and especially of the duct systems, in order to kind of restore that unit and get it ready for the next person. So now that we've talked about where odor lives, let's talk about how to get rid of the odor. I've got a couple of good options here for helping you get tough smells out of a building. I wanted to start with the cheaper and more readily available option, which is charcoal bags. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This doesn't need to be complicated. It's a bag of activated charcoal that you toss in the area where the smell is. Over time, the bag of charcoal will absorb the odor, and then you remove the charcoal from the room, and you can basically toss the charcoal bag into the sunshine, which will allow it to essentially off-gas the odor, I guess, and then they're reusable. You can buy these on Amazon, you can buy them at Home Depot, but you really don't have to buy anything super fancy. You can literally get a bag of lump charcoal and bust it open in a building, put a tarp down, bust the bag of charcoal open on top of the tarp so it has lots of surface area to absorb. It's the exact same concept, and honestly, it probably works even better than the charcoal bags, the activated charcoal bags, because you're getting a lot more surface area of coal that's exposed, which is going to give you a lot more odor-absorbing properties. This does work really, really well, but it does take some time. We've used this pretty efficiently in some of our units where we've had a scent that we just can't eliminate. It's a good option if you have time where you can let the charcoal sit to absorb. This is not necessarily the best option if you're trying to get something turned over in a hurry, but if it's a situation where you do have that time, this is a good option to examine. The next product that I wanted to mention is an ozone generator. These do an excellent job of getting tough smells out of the home, but you need to understand how they operate before you go to use one. Ozone generators work by essentially converting the oxygen in the room to ozone, and then the ozone binds to odor molecules in the air. That's a very, very oversimplified explanation, but for our purposes, it's sufficient. Now, ozone is incredibly harmful to people, pets, and plants. It will literally kill you if you stay in the space where an ozone generator is being used, at least one of the more powerful ones, like what we're talking about here today. So you need to read and understand the operating instructions before you go out and throw an ozone generator in an apartment and turn it on. Now, the unit that we have uses a 2-hour run cycle, and then it has a 2-hour cool down period after that ends. So once we start that ozone generator and exit the apartment, we don't re-enter the apartment for a minimum of 4 hours. Any person, pet, or plant needs to be out of that space for the entire duration of that time. It's not safe to enter the space during that time. It's not habitable for humans, or pets, or plants. I don't want to have to keep reiterating that, but we've had situations where people have left houseplants in apartments where an ozone generator's been used, and yeah, it'll kill your houseplant. It starves the oxygen from the environment is essentially what happens. You may need to run an ozone generator multiple times in order to get the smell out of the building, but it is the most effective way that we have found to remove tough odors from houses after you go through and do your deep cleaning and ensure that the source of the odor is eliminated. There are multiple different types of ozone generators out there on the market, and you should look for one that's capable of handling the size of the space that you're looking to use it in. There are small units out there, and they also range all the way up to full-size industrial units. Obviously, what you're looking for is going to be somewhere in the middle. Do some research before you buy. I found them on Amazon ranging anywhere from like $50 to $150. Getting the tough smells out of a home can be a challenge, but it certainly is not impossible. Presenting a clean, fresh-smelling home to potential tenants goes a long way in helping you find the potential tenant that you're looking for, the best possible tenant that's going to rent your apartment and keep it in a good, clean condition. So there you have it. Getting your place cleaned up is one of the best things that you can do when looking for new tenants. Have you ever had to use an ozone generator in one of your units to get rid of a tough smell? What about going so far as to rip out bad carpets and have to replace them? Drop us a comment down below and let us know your craziest turnover story. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Andrew Schultz with RentPrep.com, and we'll talk to you soon.